Well, good morning my lovelies, and welcome to an absolutely beautiful, bright, sunny, a little bit frosty, slightly nippy spring Sunday morning. I hope you are all well. Oh my days lovelies, I've got up this morning and it is an absolutely glorious spring morning. Can't believe how nice it is, considering all that rain that we had over the last few weeks. It's turned out to be such a beautiful morning. Gladdens your heart, it really does. Makes you feel so much better when you've got weather like this. Beautiful. Anyway, that's enough chit chat for the weather. So, today's video are brought to you by the witch hunt from Salem in Massachusetts. I know it all kicked off at the end of February and the beginning of March, but I thought we'd save it for today because the trials didn't just last a few days, they lasted a few years, and there were lots and lots of victims, innocent people who were hung or died through torture or died through the terrible conditions that they were kept in the prisons. So what I thought we'd do was we'd have a quick look at how it came to be, and then we'll have a look at the key players and what happened to them in the end, because I don't know about you guys, but I sort of never really found out what happened to the three main characters. So I thought I'd do a bit of digging. Anyway, less chit chat. So, the witch trials of Salem. Bit of a mash-up and a bit of a cock-up all round. Anyway, so the Salem witch trials. February the 29th, 1692, Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne and a slave girl named Tituba were arrested for witchcraft. During the month of March, Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne and Tituba were imprisoned and questioned as to whether or not they practiced witchcraft. And so began one of the famous witch trials ever. So everybody knows about Salem, you know, you might have heard a little bit of it, come across it. So you've got Salem, Pendle and the Scottish witch trials. They're the main three most famous ones, but there's plenty across the world that have happened, both past, present and possibly in the future as well. During the February of 1692 and May 1693, more than 200 people were accused of witchcraft. 30 people were found guilty. 19 were executed by hanging. 14 women and 5 men. One other man, Giles Corey, when I looked this morning, he was in his 80s, God bless him, died under torture because he wouldn't enter a plea. He wouldn't say whether he was a witch or not, and he died by what is known as crushing. So they would put large heavy stones, slabs of stone on the body until that person yielded and admitted that they were a witch or said they weren't a witch, which, to be honest with you, is a bloody awful way to go. It's not one of the greatest ways of dying. Death by squashing. Bear with, I'll be back in a minute. Right, so yeah, sorry about that. A chap in his 80s called Giles Corey died by crushing because he wouldn't admit to being a witch or not. What you've got to understand is that during those times it was quite brutal, and things like torture and imprisonment were common practice. They were very naive in their belief system and very superstitious. So for people to tell tales on their neighbours because maybe a husband had run off with another woman, or a neighbour wanted some land to improve his crop growth, or whether somebody wanted that person's cow because it was the best milker in the village. Things like that were made up, you know, that person was a witch. Things like interrogation and torture were common practice to get anybody to admit to anything, whether the person meting out the torture knew that person was innocent but wanted a result, to be in good favours with either the sheriff or the local village. They would inflict some harm on people to get them to admit to something they'd not done. If you did that now, in our modern times, dear Lord, would you be in trouble for it. It's not the kind of thing that goes on, hopefully, anymore in modern society, but that's how it was. So obviously Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne and Tituba were one of the first 3 women to be taken into custody and accused of witchcraft. I wanted to find out what happened to those 3 women. I wanted to find out whether they lived or died, because for me they sort of got lost in translation. So I had a bit of a dig. So Sarah Good was condemned to hang, but was pardoned until the birth of her daughter. So apparently during the accusations, the trials and the torture, this poor woman was pregnant and she was condemned to die. But because she was pregnant, and according to them it was God's child, you can't kill an innocent life, she was pardoned until the birth of her daughter. Sarah Osborne was sent to Boston jail on March the 7th, which is what today? It's the 3rd today. 4 days' time. Come here and wait. Yeah, wait. Come here and wait. Good girl, sit. That's it. Good girl, wait. You have to wait. So, she was sent to Boston prison. She was put in shackles 2 days later because she became hysterical, shall we say. Turn around, let's go this way. She became hysterical. I'd become hysterical if I was accused of something I hadn't done and thrown into a jail. So they put her in shackles because she became possessed by demons and the like. and she was one of the first victims that succumbed to dying in jail due to the dreadful conditions she was kept in. Tituba actually is quite an interesting story. Thought to be of Native American ancestry, she was thrown into jail for 13 months during the trials and abandoned by her first owner. She was eventually freed and sold to a new owner, although it appears that she's disappeared from the records after that. So after she was released from jail and somebody else bought her, she just disappeared off the records, off the face of the earth. So they're not sure whether she may have moved this way. So they're not sure whether her new owners may have moved to another village, settlement, whatever, to avoid the scandal, because if they'd found out who she was and what she was put in prison for, then maybe she could, you know, maybe the family would have to move again. Or whether she died, whether that was by natural causes or she took her own life or somebody took it for her. They don't know. She's just disappeared off the face of the earth. To be honest with you, although it is a very well-known piece of history, and I know Salem does a lot as a tourist attraction to keep the memory alive, I do think that it is a very, very sad state of affairs in that period of time, that people could readily point the finger and accuse somebody of witchcraft through lack of knowledge, bad information, the church, and greed, because maybe they wanted land, or they wanted the best milking cow in the village, or somebody's wife ran off with another man, or somebody's husband ran off with another woman. It's bad. Thank God times have changed and we have more understanding on witches and witchcraft and things like that. So yes, Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne and Tituba, may your souls rest in peace, and I apologise wholeheartedly for what the human race did to you. It was not needed and it should never have happened. So lovelies, we're going to go home now. We're going to have a nice quiet Sunday afternoon, pottering around, doing very little. So do look after yourselves, lovelies. Remember, if you're struggling, please reach out. There's always somebody there that will help you. Look after one another. It's important, and if nothing else in this world, lovelies, please be kind, because you don't know what that person's going through that stood next to you. And from me and Woo and a wiggly woo bum, we're sending you all this glorious spring morning, much love and many blessings.